When we ask who the English speakers of the future are going to be, we're embarking on a tricky endeavor. And the best way for us to address this sort of question is to look at the trends in the global English-speaking population today, and then try to extrapolate from there toward a picture of the future English speaker. So what's the state of English today? It might surprise a lot of native speakers to learn that they're among the minority of the world's English-speaking population. As of 2010, there were about 1.4 billion people speaking English as a second language. And this is understandable because right now, the English language is already seen as a universal second language, and it's not uncommon for children in other countries to study it as they would another subject in school, like math or music. In fact, another piece of trivia that surprises a lot of native English speakers is that the world's largest English-speaking country right now, it's not the United States, it's not Australia, it's not England, it's China. And before it was China, it was India. This trend, this preponderance of non-native speakers of English is most likely going to continue, so that in the future, experts predict by 2020, only 15% of the world's English-speaking population will be made of native speakers, which means that in the future, it's quite likely that the English language can be thought of as the world's universal second language. So you only have to look at Old English or Ye Olde Middle English once or twice to realize that they're very different from the modern English that we speak today. And that makes sense when you think about it, because English is a living language. It's dynamic, and it transforms according to the way people use it. The English of the future is going to be the same way. Now, we already know that the English speakers of the future will most likely be non-native English speakers. And we only have to look at present-day differences between English in the United States and English in the United Kingdom to know that English dialects will arise and they will begin to diverge. For instance, we've already got very different slang in the United States versus in the United Kingdom. For instance, there's a trunk of a car in the US, there's a boot of a car in the United Kingdom. And these are based on the same language. So how different will English in the future be when the majority of the world speaks it as a second language? What we're most likely going to see, according to linguists like David Crystal and other people who study this field, is the emergence of new English dialects that have been affected by the native language of the speakers who speak English as a second language. Now, that sounds kind of like gobbledygook, but what it basically means is this. It means that instead of seeing dialects with diverging slang, we will probably see dialects with diverging rules of grammar, rules of syntax. We'll see dialects affected by a pre-existing non-English language. And this trend could accelerate to the point that in the future, instead of one standardized version of English, we have multiple versions of mutually unintelligible dialects based on the English language. When we try to look at how the internet will change the English language in the future, we do have some historical precedents, in the way that the printing press changed communication, but we also have a huge X factor, and that X factor is that the internet is so new. For instance, we understand that it has birthed amazing formats, a variety of things like tweets, status updates, blog posts, Foursquare check-ins. These all demand a different sort of writing style due to the constraints of the format and the audience that you want to communicate with. But there are other things that the internet allows us to do when we communicate. For instance, you're sending an email or a message to a friend and you want to mention a scene from The Time Machine or a scene from Back to the Future. With the internet, instead of writing, "Hey, do you remember that scene where blah, blah, blah?" all you have to do is take a link or embed a video of the scene you're talking about. And so now we have what you might think of as a visual vocabulary. The jury is still out on how this is going to play out into the long term, but it could very much be the case that, as linguist David Crystal argues, we will end up with a language that is more expressive in the future thanks to the internet.
For more on this and thousands of other topics, visit HowStuffWorks.com. And don't forget to check out our other podcasts, free, on iTunes.